JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has a lot of characters die throughout its runtime. Here's my ranking of the top 10 saddest deaths in animated JoJo's. I think some of my choices might surprise you, but hopefully my reasoning can convince you.
In preparation for this ranking, I went ahead and rewatched every episode with a major character death, and sometimes the episodes before and after, in order to get a good understanding of all the factors that led up to the death and its overall impact. Spoilers ahead for parts 1 through 6.
Number 10.
Number 10 is a character that might be a controversial pick for the bottom slot on my list. I did initially have them ranked higher, but after rewatching everything, I feel like this death doesn't come with as much sadness as the ones above it.
At the bottom of my list, I have Bruno Bucciarati from Part 5. Bucciarati is easily my favorite character from Golden Wind, and he probably sits somewhere in my top 5 out of all JoJo characters, but his death just isn't as sad as many of the others.
Let me explain. To start off, we know that he's a dead man walking pretty early on in Part 5.
Midway through the part, Bucciarati faces off against the part's big bad for the first time, and he's royally fucked up by the end of the fight, and he pretty much dies. We see smoke coming off his body, Giorno says that he can't even find a pulse, and we see Bucciarati's soul outside of his body for a moment. For the rest of the part, there are gradually increasingly common scenes and moments that imply that Bucciarati isn't exactly fully alive anymore.
For me personally, on my first watch through of Golden Wind, I was kind of in denial for a few episodes after this sequence of events. But as the episodes carried on and as the implications became clearer and clearer, I was able to come to accept that Bucciarati was not going to survive the part.
On top of all the build-up preparing you for his true death, Bucciarati dies satisfied and successful. Diavolo is defeated, their goal is achieved, and so Bucciarati dies at peace. His death still hurts, but you're ready for it by the time it actually happens. This is why I've put Bucciarati at number 10 on my list. Number 9.
When I was originally outlining this video, I originally had FF ranked at number 5. But as I went through and rewatched all of the deaths, FF's death shares a lot of similarities with Bucciarati.
FF almost dies like 12 times leading up to their actual death. You have the fight in the prison block, and then later on Father Pucci boils them alive. In both encounters, it seems like FF is dead at multiple points, but each time they're able to regenerate. Shortly after all of this comes their real death. Part of me didn't feel like this was real due to the multiple fakeouts from before, and honestly, I think that cheapens their death a little bit.
With that piece of minor criticism aside, the key part of FF's death that is pretty similar to Bucciarati's is the satisfaction that they die with. When FF dies, they're happy.
Their whole character arc is about their intellect and the fear they have of losing themselves, and honestly, it's a beautiful character arc. But that's for a different video. FF is dying as themselves. They say that their soul is proof that they were alive. Jolene even offers to get their disc in order to bring them back, but FF says that will be a different FF, not them. They're happy to die as themselves.
The satisfactory tone we get from FF as they die is why I moved them so far down on my list. I love FF as a character, and just like with Bucciarati, I was sad to see them go, but also like Bucciarati, when they die happy and satisfied in relation to their own personal goals.
Number 8.
At number 8, I have Weather Report.
I know a lot of people loved Weather Report and were very upset when he died, but like with Bucciarati, we kind of know that his death is coming. It's not as long of a build-up as with Bucciarati, but it's stated at multiple points during the Heavy Weather arc that the snail transformations can't be stopped unless Weather dies.
So when Weather eventually dies, it's really not that big of a surprise. I also feel like his death was a little cheap, and that took away some of the sadness for me, and it replaced it with frustration instead.
Weather has the upper hand on Father Pucci and is seemingly about to win when Jolene and gang comes crashing through with their car. This gives Pucci the opportunity to kill Weather and escape, and for me that felt cheap. Fate is a huge theme in JoJo's and an even bigger theme in part 6, and this whole chain of events plays into that theme, but I still don't love it, and it makes the death feel less sad and more frustrating for me personally. Even still, when Hermes says, "I'm sorry, the wind stopped," that line still hurts. Number 7.
Shigechi is certainly annoying, but he's also a child who's unlucky enough to run into a serial killer with an extremely deadly stand. He didn't deserve the death he got just because he was annoying.
Kira starts to threaten Shigechi's parents during their encounter, but even still, Shigechi isn't willing to reveal any new information to Kira about his friends and their stands. Shigechi does his best to outsmart Kira, but unfortunately, as he's about to reach Josuke, the doorknob trap is revealed. That whole sequence of Shigechi limping off to his friends, trying to survive, trying to protect his parents, it's sad, man. Even as he dies, Shigechi does what he can to catch Kira. He manages to have one piece.
Say that again?
one piece of harvest, grab one of Kira's buttons, and deliver the button to Josuke. And this is the catalyst that really sets off the hunt for Kira.
Without Shigechi, Kira might have continued to kill.
Also, when we watch the whole Part 4 gang come to realize that Shigechi was murdered, it hits pretty hard. He's annoying, yes, but he didn't deserve his fate. Number 6. At this point in the video, I think we've reached the true tearjerkers in my opinion. All the previous deaths were certainly sad, but these final 6 are ones that I truly consider heartbreaking.
At number 6, I've got Abakio. Abakio is my second favorite character from Part 5, right behind Bucciarati, and he gets done so fucking dirty in that story.
As a brief reminder, the team is currently trying to find the face of the boss. They have a lead, and Abakio is using Moody Blues to further investigate the lead. While waiting for Moody Blues to finish up, Abakio helps a group of kids get their ball down. As the kids run past and give Abakio their thanks, well, blam! Donut. One of the kids was the boss in disguise, and he kills Abakio in order to maintain his secret.
There's no big moment from Abakio or final goodbye to his friends. He just dies. Almost instantly.
Abakio's character gets a little bit of closure due to the scene that takes place in the sort of afterlife with the cop that died due to Abakio's corruption as a cop.
Abakio's will carries on. All of this is sad and it hurts to watch, but then we get to the part of the episode where Narancia finds his dead friend and things get so much harder to watch.
You can really see Narancia going through the stages of grief as he screams for his dead friend. The others are sad as well, but they're able to steel themselves and keep fighting. But Narancia, poor Narancia, he lets his grief out and it hurts to watch.
So you're just leaving him here to rot, Bucciarati?
Abakio's death wasn't completely in vain. In his final moments, his stand was able to leave an imprint of the boss's face, and that helps the crew push forward on their chase. While Abakio's character gets some sort of closure, it's not nearly the same satisfaction or success that Bucciarati or FF died with. Abakio's death is just sadness. Number 5.
The start of the episode where Kakyoin dies does the classic anime thing. It starts with a monologue about Kakyoin and his backstory.
I'll be honest, I don't love this trope, however I think it's done right here for Kakyoin. His backstory is all about his struggles as a kid. He couldn't really make friends because no one could truly understand him.
How am I supposed to truly relate to someone if they can't see the real me?
No one else could see his stand, his true self.
I particularly love the line, "Mom has dad and dad has mom, but he has no one."
The monologue carries on to say that Kakyoin has never felt so connected and understood by anyone before in his entire life. Even if his time with the Crusaders had been comparatively short, it's been one of the best parts of his entire life.
Kakyoin's story is quite tragic, and one of my upcoming videos is actually going to be a character study on Kakyoin, so make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this and don't want to miss that in a few months.
Kakyoin begins to face off against Dio, and he lays a trap in order to figure out the true nature of Dio's stand. And then, in an instant, Kakyoin is flying through the air with a massive hole in his chest.
The music kicks in. Kakyoin can't move. He's bleeding out, and he thinks of his parents for a brief moment and apologizes for worrying them.
Before his inevitable death, his mind shifts from his parents to Dio's stand and the secret of his ability. He's able to deduce Dio's power and send a signal to his friends about its secret before he dies.
I find this moment particularly compelling and heartbreaking.
Kakyoin's body is destroyed. He has no power left in him. His first attempt at firing a splash fails, but he fights in order to fire his final attack.
His final moments are spent with him pleading that his friends will figure out his message, and then he dies. One of the biggest factors for me that really makes Kakyoin's death hurt is the lack of closure that his character gets.
His parents are worried sick about him, wondering where he's gone, and Kakyoin will never know if his friends succeed in killing Dio.
All that Kakyoin knows is that Avdol is dead, Iggy is dead, and that he's about to be.
He doesn't have the strength to tell anyone directly about the secret to Dio's stand, and so he has to resort to destroying the clock, hoping that his friends can figure it out. He will never know if they did. 17 years of loneliness, 50 days of friendship. Ouch. Just ouch. Number 4.
You all knew that this character was going to be on this list, and this death is pretty iconic, so I'm gonna keep this one kind of brief. To be completely frank, Caesar did not need to die.
Everyone is telling him not to charge in alone, and he does anyway.
Even if his death is partially caused by his own hubris, it's still quite a sad one, and it became a meme for a reason.
Caesar almost wins the fight, but he's unable to withstand Wamu's attacks. Even at death's door, he continues to fight. He manages to get the antidote for his boyfriend, friend, Joseph, and he uses the last of his Hamon to deliver it to him, and then he's crushed.
I think the most heartbreaking thing about his death is Joseph and Lisa's reaction to it. You really see Joseph going through the stages of grief while looking for his dead friend.
Joseph's speech about not calling out his name because he fears he can't accept the truth is pretty damn sad as well. Lisa seems to be quite cold at first, but it's soon revealed that she was just trying to stay strong for the sake of the mission, and I feel like that just adds to the impact of everything as well. Of course, what really sells the heartbreak is when Joseph sees the blood, screams for his friend, and cries.
Caesar's final moments and the heartbreak of his friends makes his death an absolutely iconic and very sad one. Before we get to the top 3, I'd like to give a quick honorable mention to Avdol. He's not on the list, but he almost was. I loved his character and I wasn't happy when he died, but his death is much more brutal and sudden than sad.
1 second he's here and 1 second he's not. I still get chills when we see him and Iggy flying among the clouds, but I felt that these other deaths had more to them that played up the sad factor. Number 3.
Oh, Narancia. Poor Narancia. The thing that gets me the most about his death are the events that lead up to it.
Everyone has swapped bodies and Narancia is currently inside of Giorno.
Hey, yo!
More importantly, Bucciarati is inside Diavolo's body, and so they assume he must be inside of Bucciarati's. Mista shoots him and he seems to be dead, but something doesn't feel quite right.
We all know it can't be that easy, but, well, Narancia, he doesn't.
He starts to celebrate. He talks about going to school, seeing his friend Fugo, he cries for Abacchio, and he promises to help protect Trish. Then, time cuts and the music stops.
Things feel very off. The ominous tone that the episode is able to set before it reveals Narancia's death is honestly haunting.
Everyone is shocked and confused while trying to figure out what the hell just happened once they notice the cut in time. One person is noticeably missing from this sequence. Narancia. Eventually, Bucciarati asks Narancia to scout ahead with his stand, and then they find him, skewered like a kebab during the short skip in time.
The whole sequence leading up to the reveal has a sickening feeling to it. The anime is able to give you the exact same feeling that the characters are feeling during those moments. Complete unease. Once his death is revealed, the music and tone is able to help amplify the new feeling inside of you. Heartbreak.
The strings that come in during this part help amplify the pain you're feeling tenfold. Giorno tries to heal Narancia, but the body is empty. Giorno can slip right back inside of his own body because Narancia is gone. As Giorno moves back to his own body, Narancia's corpse thumps to the ground, really selling just how dead he is.
The part that really gets me is the scene we see of the airplane's shadow.
The shadow flies over Fugo and Abacchio's resting place, symbolizing Narancia's soul. The shadow was cast by a bird, and we eventually see the bird fly off into the clouds. Goodbye, Narancia. Giorno swears to Narancia that when this is all over, they'll bring him home. A promise that they won't abandon his body like they were forced to do with Abacchio. Number 2.
I have mixed feelings about part 1, but this death, it deserves the number 2 slot.
Danny the dog's death was one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever seen in my entire life.
I'm kidding, of course. Number 2 is Jonathan Joestar. Look, part 1 is a mixed bag. The first few episodes are fantastic, but then it gets kind of bland in the middle, but then it picks back up again for the ending. I actually have a 34-page script I wrote about part 1 about a year and a half ago that I have yet to turn into a video. I might eventually turn that into a video, so subscribe. In the meantime, I have other JoJo's videos for you to check out, so why don't you watch my video about stand design when you're done watching this one.
I adore the finale to part 1 because of the emotional roller coaster it sends you on.
Let's zoom out for a second and talk about what Jonathan has had to deal with up to this point in part 1.
To start, he's tormented non-stop by Dio for years. Dio eventually starts to put on an act of friendship with him just to betray him, kill his father, and burn down his family home. Dio has been a curse haunting Jonathan nearly his whole life, and after their second showdown, he finally thinks he's free. Jonathan marries his childhood love, and I still get chills when I see their wedding photo in the final episode. Absolutely adorable.
Even though the time we see of Jonathan and Irina together is brief, it's very clear how much each one cares and loves the other. You can't help but want them to have a happy ending.
You, the viewer, saw hints from the episode before that Dio isn't actually dead, and so while you're filled with joy for the young couple, there is a sense of impending doom that just gets worse as the episode goes on. Right from the start of his final encounter with Dio, Jonathan is hit in the neck with Dio's eye lasers, and this cripples his ability to use Hamon and defend himself.
As a first-time viewer, you start to dive deep into denial. He's the main character. He'll figure out a way out of this. This is an anime. People People survive crazy wounds like that all the time, right?
Jonathan is still able to fight to a limited capacity, but it starts to become clear that his death is very near. Irina's actions make this finale so much more heartbreaking. She holds her wounded husband and she tells him that she will stay with him. She wants to die with him. Her internal monologue when she kisses him about feeling his life fading away through her lips is just heartbreaking.
As everyone who's already seen JoJo's knows, she doesn't die with him. Also, if you haven't seen JoJo's, what are you doing? I've spoiled like 80% of the deaths up to this point.
Jonathan asks her to save the baby of another dead passenger, and more importantly, he asks her to stay alive. At this point, the engine explodes and Jonathan protects his love with his body as he takes the shrapnel from the blast. Dio tries to take this as an opportunity to take his body, but Jonathan is able to use the last bit of strength he has to stab his brother's disembodied head.
Jonathan speaks of their shared fates, and he says that he feels an odd warmth toward Dio. He then bids farewell to his love, and he dies.
As a viewer, the whole sequence of events is just heartbreak after heartbreak. The moment when the show officially says that Jonathan is dead hits like a motherfucker.
Part 1's finale is almost perfect in a disgustingly sad way. With all of the elements we've discussed, it's able to make an absolute heartbreaking ending despite the rocky road that led up to that.
Number 1.
I think my number 1 pick might be a little controversial. I bet most fans will agree that this death is sad, but I'm almost positive that a lot of people would want one of the other characters I already talked about in the number 1 slot. If that's the case, then give me your top 10 list in the comments. Just keep it to anime only, please. This video is intended for anime only fans. I've read parts 7 and 8, but a lot of people watching haven't, so let's not spoil that for them. With all of that being said, I will stand on business that this is the saddest death in all of parts 1 through 6. I have never sobbed so hard while trying to read a damn manga. The death that I think is the saddest in all of animated JoJo's is that of Jolene Kujo. Jolene's death is a nuke of absolute sadness. To clear this up from the very start, yes, Jolene is dead. I'll get into that in a minute or two, but first, some context.
Throughout part 6, we see Jolene grow immensely. At the start of the part, she's Jotaro's daughter. By the end of it, she's a Joestar. The extended fight against Father Pucci is a great one. It's filled with so many hype moments, like when she turns her body into a Mobius strip to counteract Seamoon, or Jotaro's reappearance into the part. But then, Father Pucci achieves heaven.
Made in Heaven is an absolute absurd stand that seems nearly unbeatable, and that is made pretty clear in the show when we see the protagonists running instead of standing their ground and fighting.
They're running with intent to put themselves in a better position against Father Pucci, but they're still running away. The group eventually makes it to the water with a plan in place, but Pucci is 2 steps ahead. Anasui is killed, Hermes is killed, and even the series' golden boy, Jotaro Kujo, is cut in 2. We see a memory of Jolene's about getting arrested as a kid and her thinking, Dad will be here soon to save me, right? Jolene has yearned for a relationship with her dad her entire life, and he was just killed in front of her. He won't be saving her this time.
At this point you're thinking, the Joestars always win, right? It's been 4 parts straight with the main character coming out on top. But as the story continues, Jolene dies.
She sacrifices herself for the sake of Emporio. She faces Father Pucci, and we see her stand get ripped to bits.
Now all of that was certainly heartbreaking, but it's the ending of part 6 that makes me put this death at number 1. Is this cheating for my list? No, I don't think so. For every other death discussed, the context leading up to it has been very important when discussing the overall impact. For Jolene, I think the exact same thing is true, but with the episodes following her death.
After Emporio defeats Father Pucci, the universe finishes its reset, but this time without Father Pucci's influence on the world. The Father Pucci we knew is dead and gone and will not be reincarnated because he died during the reset. And this is the same truth for Jolene and the others.
Without Father Pucci trying to achieve heaven and pursue the Joestars, Jolene is free to live a normal life. However, this isn't Jolene. This is Irene. Similar, but not the same.
As Emporio meets all of his dead friends as new, different versions of themselves, he sobs, and so did I.
I finished reading part 6 right after the second batch of episodes because I didn't want to wait, and I can confidently say that I've only cried that hard to a piece of media a handful of times. The weight on my mind after reading that ending sat there for days. Jolene and everybody else is dead.
They won, yes, but at the cost of their own lives. Someone else might be alive with their face, but not their soul. They're all fundamentally different people, and the only one who will ever know that is Emporio.
Part 6's ending can be a little bit confusing, and that's why I'm planning to make a video about it before the end of the year. So, once again, go ahead and subscribe if you want to watch that one in the future. So, what did you think of my top 10? What did you agree with, and what did you disagree with? What would your top 10 list look like? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe for more JoJo content mixed in with other video essays, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.
Don't you worry, it'll be okay. Don't you worry, spit it come, you make my life okay.